Hey guys, are you looking to get the attention of fishing sponsors? Well, I propose this question to Chad Hoover, who I believe is uniquely positioned to answer it. So he's owned the companies, he's had pro teams, he's been the marketing director, pro staff director, and it was so good, I'm just gonna shut up and let Chad Hoover put a straight up free clinic on how to secure fishing sponsorships from the companies you already love.
I'll start off by talking about something that came up recently, that also come up semi-recently, that also comes up on a pretty regular basis. Somebody will comment on a video. I get a new product. I'm talking about it. And you'll have, 200 comments. And you'll have that one comment. Oh, it must be nice to get free stuff. And my initial response to that is, you obviously don't watch the channel. You have no idea how much work it is to get this free stuff. And so when you get paid at work, you're trading dollars for hours. You're going in, you say, I'm going to be here for 8 hours. You're paying me this rate. And then if I'm here longer than that, you pay me this rate plus some for overtime. And that's our trade-off. So you're getting paid for your time. And people can understand that. They can wrap their head around it. When you do what we do, and when you do what I do, at the level that I do it, and again, I didn't start here. This is 25 years of building myself up. And I'm glad you said the uniquely positioned thing, because I do pride myself on that understanding. And it sounds kind of self-serving when you say I'm uniquely positioned, but I really am, because I've been a pro staff director for companies and built successful pro staffs. I've been a marketing director for companies. I've owned my own companies that have succeeded and failed. I had a retail company called Hook One, was very successful when I owned it, sold it. They took the secret sauce out, which was to engage with your customers and truly understand them and meet them where they are. And they went out of business in 3 years. So that company was very successful with me. For me, I sold it because I was sick of retail. I just didn't want to be locked into a shop every day. I was gaining weight. I was literally swelling up like a tick on a hind leg of a hound dog. And I just wasn't out there fishing as much as I wanted to. So I was like, I got into the outdoor industry to be inside all the dang on time. So when the opportunity came along and we had gotten some success and we started getting offers to buy, the first few, I was like, no way. The more that it came in, and you've got this offer on the table, and you're sitting there at 2:00 in the morning going over spreadsheets, and you're placing orders, and you're answering customer emails, and you're burning the candle at both ends for, going on 4 years. All of a sudden those offers become a little bit more entertaining. So it probably sounds like I'm going around my elbow to get to my back pocket right now, but I'm going to bring it all together by saying that when I owned that retail shop, I had a fishing team that helped me. And I was able to see what the people who did, that provided a return on investment, what they did. I was able to see the ones that what they didn't do and didn't provide a return on investment. I was able to quickly ascertain the difference between like vanity metrics and the things that convert. I was able to see through garbage, and I was able to start to slowly but surely figure out where I, as a brand, needed to invest to get a better return on investment. And so if you can't spell ROI and you don't understand what ROI is, then you're never going to be successful in a sponsorship relationship. Because I want to clarify the one thing about the must be nice. Two things. First of all, it's super nice. It's super nice to get a text that says, hey, we've got your kayak for delivery, and it's the fourth one you've gotten that week, and they show up to your campsite and drop it off, and then you've got another boat to play with. It's super nice to get $10,000 worth of fishing rods and reels in a box. It's super nice to get insert product here. But the minute that you open that box, you're now obligated to create a return on investment. Now, I don't create a return on investment by doing, hey, look at me opening a box. And again, okay, I'll back up. I was about to say, and again, I'm not making fun of that. And then I kind of did. So I'll back up.
Let's backpedal a little bit. Start over.
It's not my style.
Right.
So again, for the people that works for, good on them, and good on them for figuring out that works. I can't do that and then be true to what I just told you guys about the first third, the middle third, and the current third. I plan on staying in this current third for the rest of my life. I don't need to evolve again. I'm happy, I'm content, and I like this type of content creation. I like product reviews. I am naturally an engineer. I'm a weird combination of an engineer and an artist. So it's another place where I'm uniquely positioned. I have an aeronautical engineering degree from Embry-Riddle. I spent half of my career in the engineering and mechanical world in aviation in the Navy, but I embrace my marketing side as an artist and a creator more. But I have both sides of the brain, like, are engaged, you know? And so I'm left-handed, and people say that's right-brained, but like I do everything else right-handed. So I'm like, I am uniquely positioned to kind of see things from the nuts and bolts side and the artsy fartsy side, which usually are like so diametrically opposed, it's hard.
Yeah.
So I can have this idea and say, man, this creative thing is so good and it's going to motivate people. But then I have to remember, okay, but what's it going to motivate them to do? Is it going to motivate them to click a button? Is it going to motivate them to hit a thumbs up? Is it going to motivate them to leave a comment? And I had this conversation with a company about whitewater kayaking versus fishing kayaks. Hey, we've got these whitewater videos that go viral. We've got this one whitewater kayak video that's got 13 million views. How do we get a fishing video to go viral? And I say, okay, so what's the end result or the end goal of those two videos? Oh, we want to sell more boats. I said, okay, I bet if you interviewed the 13 million people that watched that whitewater video, 12.8 million of them couldn't tell you what brand kayak it was that went over the waterfall.
No, it's not what they watch.
But in a fishing kayak video with 1,500 to 3,000 views, you could interview 1,500 to 3,000 people, and 95% of them could tell you not only what model the kayak is, but they could probably name 4 or 5 other products are in there.
Right.
So I'm going to back up and say this. When I owned a rod company called All Pro Rods, I was spread too thin. I had 5 things going on, but I was genuinely interested in learning how rods were made, how to make them better, do all these things, but I didn't have the bandwidth to make it successful. So I thought, oh, I'll supplement it by having this huge pro staff. And I overspent on a pro staff, dang near put myself out of business with the pro staff. And then ultimately, when it really came down to it, it's hard to walk back some of that stuff because now you've got loyalists. And if you pull back on them, not only do they not keep supporting you, but they become a naysayer. And then COVID hit. So it was ultimately like the double kiss of death. And I was done just continuously pumping more and more money into what I felt like was a dying cause. So again, I promise you guys, I am answering Darren's question, but I'm providing the foundation for why I'm uniquely positioned, which he just kind of threw out there for the folks that might not be watching. And so that you understand how I consider myself uniquely positioned to give this advice. Because by being a marketing director, by having both successful and unsuccessful companies, by being a sponsored athlete at every level, entry level, intermediate level, advanced, by having relationships that have been very successful and grew and grew and grew, and then having relationships that have been very successful, and then we outgrew each other, and then there wasn't a fit anymore. And then figuring out how to navigate all that has been very challenging. But I think that I've done about as good a job as anybody could do dealing with. You represented a company for 7 or 8 years. They decided to go in a new direction. They wanted to focus on more, diversity and this and that and the other. And they tell you flat out, hey, after 12, 15 years, we just don't need another like fat redneck white guy. We need more diversity, and you don't fit. And you're like, but I helped build your brand. And you can potentially take that into personally, internalize it, beat yourself up, or you can back up from it and say, okay, it was a business transaction from the beginning. You might have got too personally involved. They obviously weren't personally involved. So now back up, write it all out, and say, how do you move forward? So I've done that with a couple of different relationships. I also respect that people have an opinion, and you have to learn to see the other person's side of an argument. And the really good lawyers out there and the really good debaters out there actually try to be their own competition to prepare themselves for their argument. And so I've learned how to do that. Okay, what is it that makes what they're saying true, instead of me trying to take it personally and then justify it? And then how do I use that to parlay another relationship or a better relationship? Or how do I double down and say, I'm going to fix that misconception that you have of what my return on investment is? I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. Shimano this year said, hey, we're not moving forward with the sponsorship for next year. You did a great job, but we weren't getting the numbers we were looking for from a listening software standpoint. And I was like, what's listening software mean?
Software. Yeah,
well, we have software that goes out and listens for this and grabs our names and tags and all this other stuff. And I was like, but we had a game plan last year when we met, you said you're more interested in soft integration, branding, pre-roll videos at this number, and just talk about the rods and reels where you can, when you can, and integrate it into your content authentically.
Right.
Does the listening software grab that? They're like, no. And I was like, okay, then I did what you asked me to do, but you measured me a different way. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use other rods. I'm going to use other reels. I'm going to do what I've done in the kayak world, and I'm going to do some comparison stuff. I'm going to kind of open my horizons up. And if you guys see value in what I do next year, we'll meet at ICAST. And if it makes sense, we'll move forward because I played the game correctly instead of having bad information. But instead of getting all butthurt and going and shopping for another rod sponsor or a reel sponsor and, oh, screw Shimano, you just sit down and say, you be a professional. But I'm going to go back to ROI because I really do think that that's the root of the misunderstanding of how sponsorships work. Your job as a pro staffer, whether you're a professional staffer or a promotional staffer, is to provide a return on investment. Companies are not charities. They're in the business to make money. And if you don't believe that their products are good enough to buy yourself, then don't freaking use them.
Right.
Another company that moved in a different direction this year because they were bought by a conglomerate, they completely rebranded. They focused very heavily on the Elite Series pros and the tournament pros and those guys is Yamamoto Fishing. Yamamoto Fishing, I've been with Yamamoto for over 15 years. Gary Yamamoto himself called me and invited me out to his ranch. If you go watch one of my old videos, you'll see me at ranch at Gary Yamamoto's place. He was a fan of my content.
Wow.
Well, Gary sold the company. A new company took it over. It's now part of a brand collective instead of its own brand. New leadership comes in. Kayak fishing isn't as a big deal to them. I'm like, I got one video that got 4 million views that sold a massive amount of your product, but it didn't matter because it wasn't in the category that they decided, right? So I didn't play the game according to their rules, or we didn't communicate enough. I'm not going to go out and start bashing Yamamoto products. I'm not going to go out and crap on Yamamoto products. If I believe that I was trading dollars for time to promote them, just like I talked about with a worker, and I truly believe that the effort and energy that I was putting into it, I was providing a greater value than I was getting in return in product, then if I don't have to do that, why would I not buy that product if I believed in it enough to tell you knuckleheads to buy it? So for me, I think that if you can get to that place in your mind where you say to yourself, I believe in this product and I believe in this brand and I'm going to use it. If the sponsorship works out, great. And then if it doesn't, and then I decide to explore other options, I'm going to do that, but I'm never going to go back and crap on the product that I previously used, the brand that I previously endorsed, because I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that professional endorsers make is that you trade on your endorsement. But if people start to realize that your endorsement is only for sale, but isn't genuine, then you're not going to move the needle. And so to me, vanity metrics, how many views you get, all those things are great from the standpoint of just creating a foundation. But conversion and how that company benefits from the relationship with you is much more important. If I do a video where I teach how to use something, and you as a consumer or a fan or a follower or whatever you want to call it, watch that video and you get value from it to the point that you say, I'm going to buy that product based on his endorsement. And a video with 1,200 views sells 400 packages of Yamamoto soft plastics. It's better than a 3.8 million view video that might sell 200, right? But to me, the one thing that you can do to stand out in the noise right now in this world, and this is the part that I think everybody's missing, is you can provide value. Okay. And there's 3 real categories, but I only think we should really focus on 2. It's information or entertainment. Okay. The third one's engagement. You have an opportunity to engage, but information and entertainment. So I've tried to create infotainment, right? Information that's also entertaining. And I think you do a good job of that with a lot of the little cutaways and stuff that you do and the little, one-liners and the things that you do. And so that's why we fit. Is like, I think that infotainment is the smartest way to become a valuable asset to a sponsor. Now, I'm going to stop right there for 2 seconds. I'm going to back up to say, Remember when I was talking about that first third, the middle third, and the last third of YouTube?
Yeah.
Well, in the last third of YouTube, what I've really learned is that it's not me on this side of the wall and you guys on the other side of the wall. It truly is like a family and like a community. I recognize the people who comment in my comment section. I get to know them. I see them at gas stations. I run into them at Bass Pro Shop or Waffle House or whatever. And they're like, hey man, it's at Gil's Dad 842. I'm like, dude, hey, thanks for that comment on the thing. And they're like, dude, you remember that? Yeah, we remember that, because it means a lot to us that when we sat down and took the time to shoot, produce, edit, deliver, figure out how to convey that message, that you received it. I also love criticism, like true criticism. Hey, your audio's too loud in the beginning of the video. Hey, thanks for that. Hey, you rambled for too long. Hey, you interviewed this guy, but you didn't let him talk. I love that type of criticism because I'm also my own worst critic, or I try to be. But when somebody can catch something that I didn't, I love it. And you should too. It's free improvement opportunity.
We're trying to make you better. That's what
it's
I'm telling you.
It's an opportunity to come over the top. If they hated you, they wouldn't take the time to tell you.
Right.
They'd be like, this guy's a blowhard. He's a clown. I'm just going to let him keep being a clown. But back to the return on investment. I'm going to give you I'm going to tell you right now that there's two formulas that you should know. CPM, or cost per million. If you understand how to calculate a cost per million, and then knowing how to do a value stream analysis. In other words, figure out what you're worth. Okay. I get this all the time. Hey man, I've been trying to get sponsored now for about 6 years, man. Dude, it's just tough. And I'm like, okay, well, how many times have you been told no? What do you mean? How many times have you been told no? Dude, pretty much every time I've ever reached out for a sponsorship, I said, okay, what did you ask for? Oh, I just told them I really love their product and I'd be interested in a relationship. Okay, what did you ask for? Nothing. I'm like, well, then you got what you asked for.
Yeah. I mean, as a professional fundraiser, if you don't ask for usually a specific number, you simply don't get it.
Really simple
So I get
thing that I want you to put into your sponsorship approach. Know what you're worth. Know the value that you can bring. Figure out how to calculate CPM, and then what that CPM is worth to that company, what CPM they're worth paying, so that they can get that from you without going out and bidding for it in the world of paying for an ad to be on all of social media or all of YouTube. And if you can if you can underneath that and undercut that, you're a better value proposition, plus your real and genuine content. And if you can create the content and you can hit a better CPM than they can get by creating the content, paying somebody to create the content, and paying that CPM, then you are a valuable asset. But the first hurdle to get over is knowing what you're worth. Okay. And the first thing that you have to understand is it's way harder for the person on the receiving end to tell you what they think you're worth than it is for you to tell them what you think they're worth. If you are insulted by what they tell you, you should be insulted by the fact that you didn't give them something better to offer.
Okay.
So I'm going to say that one more time. If you are ever insulted by the offer a company makes you, stop for a second and flip that disgust around onto yourself and say, but I didn't ask for anything. And since I didn't ask for anything, I deserve what they offered me. 90% are going to default to, hey, let me give you a discount. You are now not a sponsored angler. You're a customer. They're selling it to you for the same price they sell it to a dealer for. Sounds good in theory. It's probably the worst thing that's happened to this industry in the way that you can buy your way onto fishing teams. They'll immediately put you on a pro staff if you're buying product for 50% off, because then they know you're going to be wearing the pro team shirt and putting their name in the description box of sponsored by and all this other stuff.
The deal.
If they're not giving you product, if they're not cutting you a check or a combination of the two, or if they're not spending their time, effort, and energy to promote you, then you're not sponsored. You are a customer. You're just in a different category. You're in the direct-to-consumer category. You're just buying from them at a discount, just like Black Friday or just like Cyber Monday or whatever. It's just that they've put it under the guise of it's just like you watch those infomercials in the middle of the night and they're like, but wait, there's more. Buy your second one right now for only $9 more. just pay separate shipping, handling, or whatever. Like, it's the same concept.
Right.
It's just the companies have done a really good job of painting that picture as like, hey, I know that there's a real desire for these guys to have a logo on their jersey, to have a sticker on their boat, to have a name in their cadre of names that makes up their bio. And I get it. And everybody has to start somewhere. So start with those pro deals, but understand them for what they are. They're promotional deals, but provide value. I'm going to give you 2 easy ways to provide value. 2, if you can't get a sponsorship with these 2 things, stick with your day job, stick with doing what you're doing, and continue to be the person that comments on other people's stuff saying it must be nice. The first one is send them usable content, unsolicited, and with regularity. Okay. DM them. Hey, here's a couple of photos from my last shoot. Hey, here's a couple of photos from the last time I was fishing. Hey, here's a couple short videos from the last time I was fishing. Eventually what happens is they're going to use those. And then once they use those, they're going to go, dang, Darren was a great he was a great resource. Now, here's where you know when it's time for the hook, okay? So you're throwing it out there. This is like casting and fishing. You're throwing it out there. Hey, here's some content. Here's some content. Here's some content. Eventually what will happen is they'll use your content, and it'll be a Tuesday afternoon, and their boss is saying, hey, we really need to get a post out this week. And they'll remember that Darren guy's DM'd me 30 photos. They'll scroll through. Oh, shoot, there's a perfect photo. Boom. Tag at Darren. You comment on it. Then you comment on the other people's comments in that post. Now you've engaged. Now somebody asked you a question in their post on their page, and they just said, I view you, Chad Hoover, as a subject matter expert on this product. And I ask you the question they wouldn't answer. You are now sponsorable. Now you can say, hey, and here's there's 2 things. First one, offer content for free. Okay. It's just like the old crack on the playground thing. The drug dealer goes to the playground and gives the crack away from free till he gets them hooked on crack, and then he starts charging them for it. Same concept. These are universal truths in life, but just canvas the brands that you believe in, the products that you already use, by just peppering out some content. It's like those old movies where the guy was throwing the pebble at the window of the girl. She finally comes outside and he gets her attention. But the second one, and this is like probably not as true as it used to be, but it's how I got to where I'm at. And I know tons of people that have gotten there. COVID kind of put a damper on it. But say, hey, if you guys ever need any help with trade shows, let me know. Hey, if you ever need to show somebody to work a booth at a trade show, let me know. Now, I'm going to answer. This is information overload for a lot of people. So the number 1 thing is give them content. The number 2 thing is offer to work for them, again, for free. Hey, I'll come to the trade show. I'll do this. I'll do that. If you got anything near me, and go do the show. Before I ever got my first sponsorship, I worked 400. I remember the number, 419 trade. I'd been keeping up with it. And what was
419?
419. But remember, back in the day, trade, I used to work a lot of shows. I could live in Virginia Beach and go to Baltimore, Canton Airs, Maryland, Greensboro, North Carolina, Chesapeake. I could go over to Richmond and work a show. Like, I could be, all over the place. And if you think about it, over a 10-year period, if you work 20 shows a year, that's 200 shows. Jeez. You get into that 30, 35 shows a year in 10 years, you're pushing 300 shows. And I was just obsessed with the business part of fishing. What was crazy cool, though, is that I learned that fishing is a very incestuous business. And incestuous means like, having sex with your kinfolk, inbred, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just breaking it down for our audience here, Darren. But the fishing industry is like that. It's like musical chairs. So what I ended up having happen was I had been doing these trade shows. You get a break from the booth and you go walk around, and these people see you. Then they see you again. Then they see you again. Then when they walk around, they see you representing another company. And then they go, oh, well, he's representing a company. That company has vested in him. We could do the same.
Right.
Then that guy ends up being, okay, he was the marketing assistant at this company. Now he moves over to be the marketing director at another company in this merry-go-round. So he's thinking, man, I need to make my mark on this new company. Who do I know? I remember that Chad dude from all the trade shows that did all the seminars. Yo, Chad, hey, I'm with this company now, man. Don't you use their stuff? I remember seeing them in your photos that you sent us. Yes, I do. Dude, let me know what we can do. Hey, when's your next trade show? Let me know and I'll come work there. So I got paid per diem and I worked these trade shows while simultaneously letting them promote me to the industry.
Right.
So that's kind of the way that you figure it out, is you understand what they're looking for, how to get it to them, give them a value first to where they come to the point where they almost depend on you. They start asking you for content, be a subject matter expert on their product, because if you're a subject matter expert on their product, you probably know more about their product than they do, because these people in these companies are changing, every 18 months to 2.5 years. And you become a resource. You become a respected representative. People come to you for information. So now you're a valuable asset to them. And you have to ask for what you want. And it's real simple. Hey, listen, guys, I've been loving the relationship. I love getting the discount because a dollar saved is a dollar made. But I'd like to take my game to the next level. I'd love to fish 3 or 4 tournaments this year. And I know tournaments may not get you the best possible return on investment, but they get me in front of other anglers and they help me help you. They help me build my credibility. So could you cover 3 entry fees this year? And if you could, then I'll offer you, primary placement on my jersey, or I'll give you the loco, this spot on my kayak, or I'll tag you in all my social posts leading up to the event, during the event, and after the event. Or I'm open to what you might see as the most valuable content that I could create for you while doing these tournaments. So you gave them an option, and you also gave them an offer to come back to you with what they would really need if they happen to need something, right? So you're opening that door for a dialogue. Again, you asked for something, but you also said, but if this isn't what you're looking for, let me know what you're looking for. Maybe we can work something out. So you've got that dialogue going. You've got that relationship. And, I've read probably, oh my God, man, thousands. I would be scared to guess how many like pro staff resumes and fishing resumes and all that I've read. So I'll give you 2 pieces of advice on that. I've done several $1 million in sponsorships over the last 12 years, both for my fishing television show, my YouTube channel, and personally, and for kayak bass fishing as an organization. And that's not bragging, and that's not crazy. That's just saying I've figured out how to provide this return on investment, work with really, big companies, small companies, medium companies, help companies get off the ground, those kind of things. And I've never had a fishing resume. I've never had one. People have asked me for a fishing resume. The fishing bio that I have that's out on most of my web pages and stuff,
right,
doesn't list the fact that I'm in the Outdoor Hall of Fame, doesn't list the fact that I won the American Trailblazer Award and all these other things in the last 4 or 5 years. I haven't updated that bio in 12 years because here's what I believe. My bio, my calling card, my resume is what I'm doing. It's what I'm putting out. It's what I'm creating. And this industry's got a very short memory. So if you list a bunch of old accolades, you potentially date yourself with those accolades.
Okay.
I don't put a lot of stock into a resume. You've got 90 seconds to get that person's attention. Your resume or your bio should be at the bottom. What you plan to do, what you're offering them, and what you're asking for should be the first 3 things in it. And then the last thing should be about you. And if you can't read the whole thing in 90 seconds, start cutting stuff out until you can. Because when people open up a resume and it's a solid 40 lines with no white space, they're going to go, I'll come back to this later. And then they never do.
Right.
So 2 tips on resumes. 1, don't waste your time until you get to the point where they ask you for one. 2, put your information last. Put what you love about their product, how you think you can help them, what you're asking for, and then your personal information. Keep your personal information the shortest section. I don't give a flying flip, and most companies don't. Yeah, my name's Billy John Brubaker. I started fishing when I was 9 years old. By the time I was 17, everybody in my area knew I was the baddest fisherman around. Daddy took me fishing for 14 years, and out of that 14 years, I caught the biggest fish about 85% of the time. After graduating high school, I moved on to fishing for, they don't care. Their brain has already shut off. If you're asking for a sponsorship, the fact that you're a good angler is a given.
Yeah, table stakes.
It's the baseline. It's what's on top of that. What can you do with that ability? Gerald Swindell has been an Angler of the Year a couple times. Dude's never won a real major event, but he gets the camera on him because he's entertaining. He's got personality. He grows his social platform. You know, Mike Iaconelli finally won a Bassmasters Classic. He finally won some of these other things, but for years he was the most recognized angler in the sport because he was a personality, because he brought energy to the table and he got the camera on him.
Right.
And it didn't matter. And a lot of people watched him to watch him not win. I hope that little loudmouth jersey's on my rah, 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 rah. So figure out what your thing is to get your fan base, their consumer base, the customer base, bring them together, but provide value. Provide something that somebody says at the end of watching a 3-minute video, well, I'll never get that 3 minutes of my life back. Make them say, dang, they're looking to take advantage of the information that you provided them. Or they got a smile on their face, or they're laughing, or they're like, man, that dude, I can't wait to see what he says in the next video. So those are the things that are kind of the intangibles. But the tangibles are provide return on investment. Be willing to give before you get. Ask for something, or if you don't get it, realize you got what you asked for. Figure out how to provide a clarification of what your value is. Learn how to calculate CPM and what they're willing to pay for it. And then from there, connect with a community, build a position in that community. Whether you're the general, a lieutenant, you know, somewhere in the middle, a contributing member, you know, a person in the audience that's just a heckler, whatever you are, figure out what you're comfortable with and what level you're willing to be at and double down on that. And last but not least, and I can get into this in a more in-depth pro staff deal. And so I don't want to dominate the whole thing about sponsorship because I'm sure there's some other stuff you want to talk about, but there's a thing called a pivot brand. This is some high level, in my opinion. This is way above your basic sponsorship stuff, but get one sponsor before you try to get two and get two before you try to get three and keep those happy before you try to build out like this laundry list of all your people so you can fill your whole jersey up. You'd better off having one jersey with one logo on the front, the back, the sleeves, their name across your belly, and you just take really good care of them. Here's what a pivot brand is. Find one good brand that's going to promote you as much as you promote them. And when that happens, the other brands in the industry are going to see that and go, well, if we were promoting and sponsoring Chad, we would get benefit when Columbia Sportswear promotes him.
Right.
And then if so and so. So my original pivot brand was Columbia Sportswear. Ultimately, they went in a direction of spending millions on Bubba Wallace and NASCAR and a couple of other things. And I had been with them for a long time. I could have been butthurt and said, oh, this is BS. I got a tattoo of their logo. But I had 12 really good years. I love Realtree fishing. It freed me up to do more Realtree stuff instead of just Columbia Realtree. I can wear my own merchandise now. So when that relationship come to an end, I could have cried in my Wheaties. I could have, had a big sob story, but I realized I used that relationship for what it was worth, just like they did with me. They started paying for me to travel around the country and do appearances at Cabela's and Bass Pro Shops and all those other things. And that turned into other relationships. So find a gold star brand. And I'm not saying kiss their butt or hump their leg or do all this other stuff, but find that one good brand that you firmly believe in, build a relationship with them, and use that as your pivot brand to get other brands to be interested in you.
Hey guys, if you love that video, if it brought you value, please head over to Chad Hoover's page, show him some love. But if you're not done binging kayak fishing content, this is a video that YouTube thinks that you will likely watch next, and I don't know what it is. So let me know, what did YouTube serve up to you? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.